And in order to not talk too much for myself, I'll just hand over to you.
Yes, there's no research that ever has a short title, so that all just comes with the territory. Hello everyone, and we're on the last stretch before the end and then the dinner tonight, which will be fantastic. And it's been such a pleasure just getting to meet and see so many people and obviously see so many great presentations. So we're almost halfway through. So just want to, in Australia, it's a customary thing for us to acknowledge country, and although we're not obviously in Australia, I do want to acknowledge the Bunurong people. So I'm from Melbourne in Carnegie, which is a suburb which is the traditional lands of the Bunurong people of the East Kulin Nation. With SHARC, which is the organisation I work for, South Pole Prediction Resource Centre, and pay our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And something really else that's important is the acknowledgement that the individual and collective expertise of those who lived or living experience of alcohol and other drug, mental health, and or gambling harm. And at SHARC, we envisage a world where all people affected by the impact of addiction can proudly and openly seek help each other, and demonstrate living proof that the recovery is possible. So just to give an overview, this is going to be a study that focuses on a peer support group that came out of one of our programs and the research that we had. And I want to acknowledge the support of the Alcohol and Drug Foundation in Australia, which helped fund this research, which was a collaboration with Turning Point and Monash University, Eastern Health, and of course the Drug and Gambling Health at SHARC. So just to give a quick overview of the organisation that I'm a part of. So it was founded in 2000, very much on the back of a surge in overdose deaths during a significant period of heroin on the streets. So a whole number of families were impacted. And that really reinforced the fact that so many families had such needs, but there was really nothing much for them. And so there was this grassroots need to actually build up support. And so from that, we really had this peer-based response. And that program has evolved. It began with a telephone helpline, which we have 35 helpline volunteers that are trained, all with their own lived experience or living experience, because some are actually still encountering that experience of the impact of alcohol and drugs or gambling. We have 54 staff and 45 volunteers make up that profile as well. Our website obviously goes through the different information and information about our groups, but we have family education and focus program, Breakthrough, which I'll be speaking about, which was part of the study, support groups, and a Muslim youth adult and family program, which is unique in Australia, which is a collaboration working with the Muslim community in Melbourne, in the northwest of Melbourne metro area, and Three Sides of the Coin, which is an innovative use of the storytelling from the experience of harm of gambling and the profound impact that can have. Really exciting areas. Obviously, the approach we're taking is very much informed by the Australian program support model and the 5-step approach. I just want to also acknowledge the role of our volunteers. Here are two who got involved in an award for their contributions at Drug and Gambling Help. And another really important thing is the role of dogs at SHARC. We have a dog bound Tuesday. Mine's the dog in the middle of the golf costume being humiliated at Christmas, for the Christmas party. But it's a lovely way of staff coming in, bringing their dogs and just having a different connection, which changes everything. So as we've talked about, and clearly a really strong and obvious theme is that we know family, friends, significant others, carers, are profoundly impacted by addiction. We know that there's guilt, worry, stigma, estrangement, financial issues, relationship problems. That the health and well-being of family members are often overlooked, which is obviously why we're here as well, really flying that flag for recognising the need for families to get the support they need. And there are very much limited services out there. So, just touching on Breakthrough as a program, this, before COVID, was a face-to-face program that was delivered for 2 hours over 2 weeks. And then COVID came along, and like everyone, we had to move to an online platform. The surprise for us was that the group actually had an extraordinary reach, because anyone can log in and register to attend. So although this was funded just for the program, we had people from around Australia, but then we quickly realised there were people from around the world. We had people from Myanmar, Poland, Ireland, America, from everywhere. I think there's everyone from Antarctica, but almost everywhere. And what we found there was the fact that program members can actually have far-reaching opportunities for connection and support. For the purposes of this study, we've only recruited people from Victoria. So the Breakthrough program was one that began in 2015, again on the back of the surge of methamphetamine issues in Victoria and very much in Australia, which we call ICE in Australia. And so far we've reached over 7,000 people, family members who attended our groups, which is phenomenal. And we deliver over 50 sessions annually. So the link is there. So the aim of our research was to look at and understand how and to what extent the online community-led support group impacted family members' confidence in their coping abilities, self-efficacy, social support, and general well-being. So what we have is that the Breakthrough program was delivered, and now people will be invited to participate in its online support. So it wasn't mandatory, it was an opt-in opportunity for research. So designed and trialled on an online peer support group, connected Breakthrough program participants, and the fortnightly group was then delivered, and then the facilitators of the Breakthrough program were also the ones who facilitated the support group. So the facilitators were all those with lived or living experience. The meetings comprised of participants reflecting and sharing the topics discussed in the Breakthrough sessions in the same place. So we focus on topics, again informed by the stress strain coping support model. We have topics focusing on safe communication, boundaries, safety plans, consideration of violence, self-care, globally significant good psychoeducation material for families which they would use. So very much big focus on the application of implementing strategies between sessions as well. And very much in this way, seeking to create a positive environment for change. So we held 18 meetings between September 2021 and March 2022. So the methods for the data collections, this was a mixed methods study. So we had pre and post online survey data using 3 different measures. And then we had interviews which were qualitative, semi-structured. So in terms of the survey participants, we had 55 attend one or more meetings, and the average attendance was 3 meetings, ranged between one person attended once, one actually pretty much did the whole lot, 18 groups. So the final number was 23 for those who actually went through the whole course of our research study. Interestingly, 96% were women, averaging 54 years. The median age was 52 years, the range was between 20 and 75. 65% were parents, 22% were partners or ex-partners, 30% children, friend or other relative as well. And as a family member affected, the average year for that was 5 years. The main drugs identified were methamphetamine, alcohol, and polysubstance use. So when the program first began, we only focused on methamphetamine, but feedback in developing the program from family members were wanting to learn more about other drugs and not be so fixated on one particular thing, because broader themes of addiction. So we have the tag on understanding addiction. So alcohol really is, interestingly in our helpline data, the one drug that people are most ready about. And we know that alcohol has the most profound impact on the health system and people's lives. So in terms of the survey results, improvement in general self-efficacy or confidence to manage and cope with life challenges improved, which was good. But in terms of the other domains, there was no significant improvements in wellbeing index or the social connectedness, which we were surprised by. In terms of the qualitative interviews, of the 11 participants, all women, average age for those interviews 57 years, age range 40 to 66. 10 of those were 91% parents, one was a partner, ex-partner. And for those who then participated in the interview, it was an average of 9 years as an effective family member, so really quite significant periods of time the families have been managing and dealing with this. And again, they identified methamphetamine, alcohol, and poison substance use as the communities they were affected by. So in terms of the 3 interview themes that came out of those qualitative interviews, the most important things of those 3 were connecting with others who share the same world, that sense of recognising that they're not alone, that they can see the same connection. Another important aspect was it's the facilitators that make the group in terms of the skill and capacity of those facilitators to therapeutically hold space. Although it's not a therapeutic group, capacity to manage safe boundaries in that environment is really important. And accessing support when in crisis, that's one of the things that was really important to participants. So I've got some quotes there, so just focusing more on the first thing. The importance of connecting with others who share their experiences, the benefits of emotional support, normalisation, and practical advice. So a student named Erica, 56, I find it just helps you get your eyes off yourself. People just gave good advice, just heard different ways that different people handle things. We know that that's the power of peer support. Being in a space where you can hear and listen to how others have gone and what they're trying, what they've found helpful. So there is no one fits. Another quote, you wouldn't really understand it unless you've been through it. People are supportive, but if they haven't lived through it, it's different. Touching on the role of facilitators, they really need to be effective group holders of the space, and we know that the therapeutic space of having people come together is incredibly powerful and enriching, but it needs to be well managed and choreographed. And you need a really complex skill base of training and professionalism to create that space. So feedback from one participant, there will be some people who want to dominate, there will be shy people. The facilitators were on track with, maybe checking people, but being nice, saying thank you, let's hear from someone else. So again, a really important way of creating a space where everyone can feel that they are able to safely contribute and participate. And the third thing is accessing support when in crisis. So participants describe accessing support when new challenges arise. So the nature of our group being fortnightly in that way, and then there are opportunities both to attend the psychoeducation part of the breakthrough program and also engage with the support group. And the need for services to be easy and convenient to access. And I think that that's what we've really learned, the silver lining from COVID, of having different supports online that actually provides a level of connection and immediacy that face-to-face groups couldn't provide, either because of geography, location, or just the fact that some people are unable to get out, even if they're next door. Normally I just go along and I try not to think of it about too much, but then something will happen that will start me off again. Then I'll seek help. And we know that about help seeking. You can feel like you're going along, something comes up, it might be a lapse or a relapse that you're confronted by, or a challenging situation at the moment. That's when you need support, that's when you need to reach out. When you're doing something new like total strangers, it's difficult. I found the Zoom was really good because you could just sit and listen if you feel a bit teary. So we would use Zoom as the online platform for the groups, and being an open-ended group, people could come and go. It wasn't a closed group, and we do find that some people would want to keep their cameras off. Now that can be challenging because the human nature is want to connect. You connect through facial expressions, you connect through eye contact, and when you have no screen, but black screen, that can then be challenging for other participants who want to also feel like they're connecting. But then we found that other times that people would put their cameras on. The experience of the group also, we would use an SMS reminder prior to sessions, which was really helpful in prompting people, because the busyness and stress of life sometimes can mean that you forget things like that. The topics presented at Breakthrough prior to the online support group were relevant to the group, so they were very much matched to what we know are things that families are really keen to get support about and learn about. Sessions provide opportunities for participants to have a voice for challenging situations that they've been dealing with, often for a large number of years. And one of the bits of feedback we get is that if I don't know about this group or this service earlier, and we know that sooner people can get support, the more they feel like they're not alone, they're not isolated, and they can organise their spot either way. Effective time is allocated to participants to share, and callbacks are offered and taken by participants post-session, and terrific feedback was received. So in summary, suggests that online support groups may increase confidence to manage challenges, suggests connecting with other family members, skill facilitators and accessibility are core components of that. And just a quote from one of the participants, thanks so much Glenn, I really loved last night's support group and found it powerful and emotional, but most of all I connected with everyone in it. Thanks so much for facilitating such a great group. And just really want to thank Annette Pearce and Freya Horn, who were the main ones who did the legwork on the research, and of course the team of facilitators who ran that. So Anna Guthrie, Nikki Scarlett and Glenn Hunter, and most importantly the families who actually participated in this study. So important. The exciting thing too is this research label has just literally gone off the press, so it's available. So if you'd like that, to send me an email. We put it on our website as well, but they're the websites that you can also access. Excellent. And that's it.
Thank you very much. And in case you weren't able to write down the email addresses for that, this session also will be recorded, so as long as the camera works. There is an opportunity for 2 questions. I would like to do this immediately after the talk.
After,
So
yeah. I'll duck away.
You just stay here. Are there any questions at the moment? Yeah.
So what I found was very interesting. Did you say that 90% were women?
Yes, fine.
Oh, so what are you going to do about the men? Because that, even in Al-Anon, where are they? They're hardly ever there.
That's a whole hour's presentation, which I've got coming up next. Look, that is exactly right, and I was really interested to hear Anya's and Ursula's research too about engaging men, and that's been a big issue for us, and both in terms of how to engage men and how to provide support, because they're doing it tough in their own way, and often by, I would say, withdrawal and avoidance at times. And it's a challenging space. And yet, in our helpline, we have, or maybe a third of men participating as volunteers. So on one level, there's incredibly strong engagement in giving back, in volunteering, both in support groups and in the helpline that we have. But when it comes to actually guys engaging with groups, very small. And that's something that's a real interesting area of research we'd like to explore more in how to do that.
Okay, are there any further questions? I would also have one. And I just wonder, what I found interesting was that you also quoted someone saying about the chances that a Zoom meeting has. I just wonder about the contrary effects. If you got any idea, for example, of people who would prefer face-to-face meetings or who have been staying away at the moment when you switched to the online meeting during the pandemic?
We didn't actually investigate that. I think the common wisdom has been always face-to-face is best. And then we've been quite surprised with our InFocus program and the breakthrough how participants have really enjoyed that connection. But I think that now that we're online, it just is so much more accessible. But face-to-face definitely has such a unique aspect of connection, and it's just different. Yeah.
Wonderful. So if there are no urgent questions left, well, thank you for your excellent timekeeping, and I would hand over to Ola Siljeholm from Sweden. And now we move to community reinforcement and family training and the experiences made in Sweden. And I think if you just go forward, there's already your presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So, very nice to be here to listen to all these interesting presentations. Thank you to the organizing committee, Gallus and all the rest of you, for this fantastic conference. So my name is Ola, and I am a clinical psychologist, and I'm also a PhD student, at least for a few more months. Then I get to become a real researcher, hopefully, finally, after 5 years. So I'm here today to talk about this randomized controlled trial that we perform with CRAFT for parents of young adults with hazardous substance use. And after attending lots of presentations here, I realized I can skip through the background here quite fast to get to the good stuff further down the presentation. Because I think most of us are aware that there's a peak in substance use between the age of 18 to 29 young adulthood, and that it comes with risks both from the present and elevated risks for the future, developing substance use disorder and, well, you know, all these different risks that come with substance use. There's also a large treatment gap in this population, meaning that there are a lot of young adults that would benefit from treatment who actually do not enter treatment. And those who actually do enter treatment, one very common reason is, as they mention themselves, is the relationship to their parents. Pressure, support, or just out of respect for the relationship. So parents do matter indeed. And we also know all about how affected family members or concerned significant others, as CRAFT people like to talk about, that they are affected in many different ways. Parents of substance-using adult children have been argued as especially strained, since there is such a strong emotional bond between parent and child. So when you as a parent see that the child is hurting themselves through substance use, it's an extra strain. And many parents experience stigma by association, meaning that they become or feel stigmatized just by being close to someone who is stigmatized by addiction. And many parents talk about being blamed by others for causing the substance use. And they are often excluded from treatment when their child turns 18, and then they no longer have the rights to participate anymore. In many cases, they don't, and in many cases also young adults actually terminate treatment when they become 18 because they don't feel motivated. So parents are in need of support by their own right, but they also have this very special position in their young adult child's life that they might be able to impact the substance use, and perhaps they can function as a motivation actually to enter treatment. So it could be possible for a double approach in support programs for these parents. I also believe that many of you are quite familiar with the CRAFT, but just a short walkthrough. It's a support program for concerned significant others, mainly evaluated for relationships with someone having a substance use problem, and also some gambling with mainly different substances. There are 3 main aims in the CRAFT program, which is to increase the quality of life for the CSOs, to decrease the relatives' use of alcohol or other substances, and to promote treatment-seeking behavior, to get more treatment-refusing relatives actually entering treatment. And the CRAFT is based on learning theory and motivational interviewing, MI, So I would argue that there are three basic components in the CRAFT program. We have the functional analysis, which is the mapping of substance using behavior to understand kind of elucidate patterns of substance use. When does it happen? Why? How can we understand that it happens in this very situation? And we have communication skills to try and improve the relationship by perhaps communicating less in a more non-confrontational manner, reduce conflicts. And then the third part is reinforcement of healthy behaviors, meaning that trying to change focus from negative substance using behaviors to instead trying to promote positive, healthy, sober behaviors that could function to motivate a decrease in substance use and perhaps even motivate to treatment entry in the end. So like I said, CRAFT has been evaluated in different contexts and different delivery modes. Mainly, as I said, when you are a CSO of someone with alcohol or substance use problem. And the main outcome here is results from a meta-analysis by Mark Archer and colleagues that came in 2020. And these dots over here, they show that CRAFT is better than the control conditions in achieving treatment entry among the relatives. That's what these dots say. And these dots say that CRAFT and all other CSO support programs increase the quality of life. They're equally good at helping the CSOs to feel better. And most of the participants have been female, and one other factor that appears important in CRAFT literature is to be able to provide what we call in-house treatment, like a shortcut, to have a predetermined treatment provider that is ready when the relative, if the relative is ready to enter treatment, then there is a back door into treatment. Those trials who have provided that regularly achieve better treatment engagement rates. And the reason why we performed this RCT is that no previous RCT has actually looked directly at this relationship between parents and young adults. Parents have been part of other trials, but no trial have worked directly at this population. So this was the aim of our trial, to investigate if CRAFT for parents was more effective than a control condition that we call counseling, which I will soon present, in engaging treatment refusing young adults with substance use problems. So we performed a randomized control trial, RCT, where we had 113 participants. It was actually 112 parents and one grandmother, who were parents then of treatment refusing young adults between 18 and 24 years. Half of them were randomized to CRAFT, and half of them were randomized to another manualized program, counseling. And we started out on site onto outpatient clinics in Stockholm, Sweden, but then COVID happened, so we had to move online to Zoom. But it was individual sessions, face-to-face, and then on Zoom. And the primary outcome was young adult treatment entry between baseline and 24 weeks. And other outcomes that we looked at were, among other things, the young adult substance and alcohol use, parental depression, anxiety, stress, parental self-efficacy, and relational happiness. And I should mention this was funded by the Public Health Agency of Sweden and also Stockholm County Council. So the CRAFT intervention was 8 individual sessions, once a week, 1 hour per session. Each session had different themes, and the participants got home assignment between each session. The counseling condition was 4 individual sessions with different themes, and then the 5th session was a follow-up session 4 weeks after the 4th one. And themes included in the counseling manual were, among other, problem description, mapping of social support networks for the parents, investigating previous strategies of trying to control substance use, identify positive social networks for the young adults, and relational patterns in the family. And we have not prepared any home assignments in this group, but the therapists could give home assignments as long as they were not too much in a behavior-changing manners, because we're trying to compare it to the CBT program CRAFT. They could also attend one group session that was provided by the outpatient clinic. It's a psychoeducative session with facts about drugs and the young adult brain. And the expected mechanisms is that by giving the parents an intervention, they could feel better for themselves, but it can also have an impact on the young adult. That could be positive. And then, if the young adult were to enter treatment, we would suppose that the effects would be even further positive, more positive. Right. So perhaps this is a bit hard to read, the flow chart. The most important thing here is we had 350 interested participants, and as usual in these contexts, most of them were excluded for different reasons. And the main reason here was that the young adult was already in treatment, because that was one of the main criteria, that they couldn't be in treatment at the time. And for those of you who have perfect eye vision, you can see here that we have a 95% follow-up of the primary outcome after 24 weeks, which we are very glad. All right. So just some short characteristics of the participants. Once again, we have the 90% female group, and they were about 50 years old. They spent quite a lot, they met or had contact with their young adults about 2/3 of the days in a month. This population was at a higher degree of education than the Swedish population at large. And what these numbers mean is that they weren't so affected by depression, anxiety, or stress at baseline. And something short about the young adults, and I should clarify that we have only been in contact with the parents. We have had nothing to do with the young adults. So these are second-hand assessments made by the parents, just to be clear. But 80% were male in this population, and they were about 20 years old. 1/3 was unemployed, 1/3 was working, 1/3 was studying. Main problematic substance was cannabis, around 55-60%. 30% stated other substances, and only around 10% of the parents stated that alcohol was the main problematic substance for the young adult. Okay, so these results, they are still under review, so they are to be considered preliminary. But we saw that 32% of the young adults entered treatment, and it was, as you can see on this survival curve, it was very close between the two groups. I think it differed like 1 person, so we could not detect any group differences. There was slightly higher treatment engagement in those young adults who had been to treatment before. And we saw that it was harder to engage young adults who were 18 to 21 compared to those who were 22, 23, 24 as a group, which I thought was interesting. And we did not see any difference between face-to-face and Zoom, which was also quite interesting. And regarding substance use and alcohol use, we saw in both groups there was a significant decrease. And here on the left is the substance use, and on the right is alcohol use. So it was clinically meaningful decrease. We didn't see any changes in parental depression, anxiety, or stress, but as I said, it was low baseline values. We did see within group changes in both groups, regarding increased parental self-efficacy, meaning that these interventions both made parents feel more confident in handling parental situations. And we saw an improved relationship happiness in both groups as well. So how much time do I have left? No time left? Okay. Alright, so we tried to think how come they were equally effective. We believe that there are certain mechanisms in the control condition, together with perhaps very high motivation in these parents. All had their primary aim was to engage their young adult into treatment. So components that we don't know, together with high motivation, could be what caused this unexpectedly high counseling result. Alright, so we were quite happy with this RCT. We think we performed a decent RCT with high ecological validity, because it was on the outpatient clinic. It was provided by therapists working at these clinics. And 90% of the participants completed these interventions. So we conclude that both CRAFT and this manualized counseling program was efficacious in increasing treatment seeking in the young adults and in decreasing young adult alcohol and substance use. And we think that this is a good argument to provide support programs for parents with healthcare. Alright, so I just want to acknowledge no man is an island. That's certainly true when you're a PhD student. So my main supervisor, Anders Hammarberg, who's here today, went to other supervisors, Malin and Veronica, and of course the staff, where we have Monica here as well, who's one of the therapists in the study. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and sorry for stressing you regarding time, but like this we have time for a few questions.
Yeah, thank you for this excellent presentation. Remember me, the time frame for the follow-up was how much time after?
24 weeks.
24 weeks. What do you think about in many studies with family members, we see a positive effect on the long run. What do you think about that? That on the short time frame, perhaps we don't see differences. Will we see something different after a year and a half? What do you think?
But of course, it's possible. I think in most previous CRAFT trials, 6 months. 6 months has been kind of the standard, and most of the treatment seeking has happened even before that, within 6 weeks or 10 weeks or so, quite early on in the process. So that's why we decided to stop at 6 months. But of course, it would be very interesting to follow them for 1 year or 18 months as well.
Thank you very much. Super interesting, I think. And I was wondering, because I don't know if you've been thinking about that, because when I saw that the results are quite the same, I was thinking about this great psychotherapy debate, which Bruce Wampold has written and gone through the studies, and sort of concluding that if treatments are structured and they are good rationale, and the people going to treatment with you, that there are expertise here that are really helpful. They do many times match each other, and do you think this is also some of the explanation here, or do you think differently about that?
No, I think actually exactly something like that is happening here, that we had this very structured, manualized program with experienced therapists. So, and a very clear aim of the contact. So I believe that, probably this effect is very much going on here.
Yeah. Often the control group doesn't get a treatment that is good as the other, but it seems,
Yeah, I mean, of course, I would have been interested to have a third control group who didn't receive anything or was on the waiting list, but when we designed the trial, we thought it would be unethical to not give them anything, and then we decided to go with this.
I think I've spotted the last question, and then we have to move on.
Thank you, Ola. It was really interesting. If I followed you right, did you do a between-group analysis rather than a within-group analysis?
Yes.
I wondered whether you observed that there was a significant difference over time within groups, because I did also wonder about whether there was a treatment need in the population of the young people. Because sometimes you might get a disagreement between young people and parents as to whether the substance use requires treatment. And sometimes that is based on parents being very worried, and understandably so. And in England, treatment-seeking populations often aren't cannabis users. So I wondered whether maybe it was because the parents were worried rather than the child's substance use was so problematic it met a threshold for treatment.
Well, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers on the substance, the heaviness of substance use, but it was a rather affected population who, I think, 12 days per month they were using substances. And I mean, we did primarily look at between group differences, but since we didn't find any in any of the different outcomes, then we looked at within group changes, and they performed as well in those as well. But no, this I mean, we tried to involve parents as early as possible to see if this could make a difference. We didn't have substance use disorder as a criteria, just parents had to be worried, but they were quite rightly worried. I would say, what do you say, Monica? Were they were really worried, and they had a good reason to be worried, because many of these young adults were using pretty much.
If you're worried about your child, it's stressful, and
Yes.
support is required, and it might therefore just disguise some of the effect on treatment seeking, because that might be something that can't be resolved. Disagreement about.
I remember a few conversations I had with parents who were worried because their young adults had tried cannabis, and I was like, oh, perhaps this is not. And they realized that they didn't have to go through the entire program.
Okay, so thank you very much once more. We have to move on regarding so I will hand over to the last speaker, Cassandra Borges-Bortolone, who is also an Affinet trustee, and she will address a real important issue about the reach of family members, because family members are not only insufficiently heard, they're also insufficiently reached, and well, I'm very interested what you've got to tell about your experiences in Brazil.
Thank you. One moment. Hello. Initially, I am thankful for being here with everyone that is part of the Affinet Conference Network. I would like to thank especially Chair Gallus and Robbie and Ola for being in this session. I am Cassandra, I am the Affinet trustee, and I work as psychologist and research, and I am CEO at Acuratech. I will present how to reach the wide number of AFMs with evidence-based intervention, motivational intervention in the whole country, Brazil. So, outline global burden on family members in healthy family, Acuratech intervention, main characteristics in our database, Flores intervention script, case report, and summary. So, having a family member with addiction, alcohol, and problems contributes to the global burden on family health. However, that is impact is neglect. In Brazil, there are 30 million AFMs of people with addiction alcohol problems. Now, in this context, a wide information deficit occurs for both the misusers and their families. Aiming our Accuratech right up, but don't see. Aiming to attenuate this information deficit and to increment specialized care, we developed a support intervention for FMs called Accuratech. What is Accuratech? It is a startup focused on reaching the wide prevalence of AFMs in a low-income country, Brazil. Aim to provide an environment that connects qualified professions for help AFMs. Accuratech was supported by Founding Center of Research and Entrepreneurship in Brazil. However, there is no funding at the moment. This is our website where you can talk our assistant virtual Flora, our Instagram, our team of psychologists. Our intervention is made in two ways. One, for free using a virtual assistant Flora, provide orientation and information. Two, charging a reduced fee using human counselors, psychology counseling. Provide orientation Flora, delivery 1, information regarding drug abuse and how the family can deal with its misuse. Therefore, Flora utilizes of our database to provide initial counseling to AFMs. Database evidence, just a minute. First, our program was building upon a rich database with question and answer were made clearly and directly in order to be used in the future as artificial intelligence. There are 1,000 questions and answers about the different substance misuse, acute and chronic effects. Second, this was made of a Flora interaction script. At the moment, we are working at this stage. We are moving forward to the development of the chatbot. In the future, level up to deep learning. Way 2, hybrid model, psychology counseling by motivational intervention for families. After the contact of FMs with Flora and if AFMs are interested, the next step is MIF conducted by psychologists for a reduced fee, 1/3 of the standard counseling fee. Our psychologists have trained the protocol MIF. Our approach MIF was based on evidence-based, stage of change, motivation interview, telemedicine. It consists of 9 structured sessions where I developed in my PhD. MIF in order to minimize the impacts of living with a loved one that misuses substance. Main characteristics of the AFMs. Now I will present some information from our database. the mostly relationship of AFM, mother, wives, and siblings. Gender, female, age over 41 years old, marital status, married, education level over 8 years, income below 5 times the minimum wage, request of AFMs, asking for help and information about alcohol and other drugs. Now I will show the Flora interaction script. Flora introduces itself, it explains what the product is and how it can help. It asks some questions in order to get to know a little bit more AFMs.